Be Like Water by Bruce Lee. I mean, that's one of my favorites because I think as life gets crazy, it's about trying to find flow.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Thrive State Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. V, triple board certified MD and performance and longevity expert. And on today's episode, we talk about a very special topic. One ingredient, one feeling, one state that actually puts you in peak performance. It's been taught by Phil Jackson to people like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. It is now brought into sports teams all over the world, and all major companies who are focused on performance focus on this one trait. What do you think it is? That's right, gratitude. On this episode, we talk about how the feeling, emotion, and state of gratitude actually not only improves your health, but improves your performance and also creates an energy around you that heals other people as well. Hi, I'm Dr. Kien. If you're new to the podcast, welcome to the Thrive State Podcast. It's really a place that brings you the thought leaders, the habits, the ideas, the mindset, the habits to take your life to the next level, to improve health, to improve wealth, to improve success in your relationships and your business. And if you are a returning member of the podcast, welcome back. I love having you on this journey with us, learning to improve yourself. And if you haven't already, pick up my copy, Thrive State, your blueprint for optimal health, longevity, and peak performance at thrivestatebook.com. It's really the book that gives you all the tools that you'll need to get you into the Thrive State. Now, before I introduce my next guest, if you haven't already subscribed to the podcast, please go ahead and do so. It'll help the show grow. And also, please consider leaving us a 5-star review wherever podcasts are heard. It will help the show grow. Now, back to today's episode. We talk about gratitude. Over the past decade or so, you hear gratitudes and wellness blogs, influencers talking about gratitude, but there's really something special about that state. Physiologically, there is no way that you are in the state of gratitude, but also be in a state of fear, of anxiety, of stress, of worry. Those two things cannot exist in your body because there's different biochemical reactions and different biochemical markers that are in each state. The states of fear, anxiety, stress, worry, hate actually increases cortisol in our body, and it'll decrease our immune system. Those two things together over long periods of time really set the stage for poor cellular health, chronic symptoms, and eventually chronic disease. Well, here's the thing. People have started to study gratitude, people in states of gratitude, and they found that these people in states of gratitude more often actually decreases their level of inflammatory markers in our body, including TNF-alpha, including IL-1, IL-6, and it actually increases our immune system. The state of gratitude is actually the state of healing. So this is why it's so important. This is why Phil Jackson teaches gratitude to his players so that they can be in peak state. This is why people like Stephen Kotler teach gratitude to high-performing companies so that people could access better creativity, better cognition, better performance at work. And so in today's podcast, I bring a very special guest, actually a mentee of Phil Jackson himself, Erwin Benedict Valencia. He's a good friend of mine. We actually met at a conference called A-Fest, and he's actually the physical therapist and trainer for the New York Knicks. He's actually known as the wellness guru to sports teams all around the world because he brings mindfulness to sports. He brings mindfulness to performance. And when we're able to do that, players notice that they heal better. They actually recover faster and they have better performance when they are on the floor. In addition to being a part of the New York Knicks, he is also the founder of the Gratitude Gang, which is actually a Web3 community where people share the power of gratitude. And he also mentors people all around the world in his Grasshopper project. If you go to his Instagram, you'll see him hanging out with celebrities all over the world, like Jay Shetty, like Gary Vaynerchuk, He's also worked with the Pittsburgh Pirates. This guy is everywhere. You'll be seeing a lot more of him very, very soon because he brings such a powerful message around positive psychology, mindfulness to our health, to our performance, and how we show up in the world. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's welcome to the conversation Erwin Valencia. Erwin Valencia, welcome to the Thrive State Podcast, brother.
We here.
I love your energy. And, I think for people who are listening now, when they feel your energy, when they see your energy, I always talk about the energy that we create around us. Not only speaks to every single cell in our body and gives our DNA instructions for health, but it affects other people as well. So it's so mindful to be aware of the energy that we feel and that we create around us. And we're going to tap into a very powerful energy pretty soon. But before we get into your story, before we get into gratitude, which is what it's all about as well, before we do that, we're going to play the 5 to Thrive. It's a game show where you get to win dinner on me. Now, we met in New York. Right after your Knicks game, we had an awesome meal. But if you win the 5 to Thrive, a healthy meal on me again, 5 questions, less than 15-second answers each. And if you win dinner with me. So I'm asking you, Erwin Valencia, are you ready to play the 5 to Thrive?
I'm ready.
All right. Question number 1. As a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Ooh, I wanted to be Fred Hickman, CNN Sports. As I watched this on TV, this is predating ESPN Sports and everything like that. Fred Hickman was the first on CNN Sports to do commentary on sports and make it funny.
Awesome. Question number 2. If I was to hand you a microphone and force you to sing a karaoke song in front of 10,000 people, what would be your go-to song?
Escape by Enrique Iglesias. Yes. I got that mic ready.
Next time I see you. All right. We're going to it out today, ladies and gentlemen. 2,000 so far. Question number 3 is, if you were stuck in an elevator for 24 hours, knowing that you cannot get out, but you had one wish to bring something from the outside world in, what would you bring?
Ooh, a speaker so I can have music to play loudly inside the elevator and dance my face off.
Oh, yeah. All right. I like that. I'm going to steal that one. Question number 4 is the following. What was your favorite childhood memory?
Ooh, my favorite childhood memory, I have so many, but it's the days spent in my grandmother's house reading Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew books in her massive library of old books, and just being able to find wonder between that and Encyclopedia Britannica, of just looking at like finding places to go in the world that I knew I would get to someday.
Oh, that's really neat. And you've traveled all over the world. Can't wait to dive into that story.
Very nerdy.
Question number 5. Here we go. You are your future self 50 years down the road. You are this version of you that you have, wanted to be, and you travel back in time to where you are right now. What message are you telling yourself?
Ooh, what am I starting to tell myself? Don't be afraid to step into that greatness. You deserve it.
Yes. And I see everything that you're doing in the community, not only the AAPI community, but abroad. I am hearing your voice ripple and ripple. So thank you for listening to your own advice. Now, dude, you are an amazing character. And when we've had dinner back in New York, you shared so many different stories with me. A DJ when it was first popping out, and then now you are the physical trainer for the New York Knicks. How does somebody from the Philippines end up being the physical trainer for one of the most iconic sports brand all over the world?
Well, to be, I think you mix both. I'm both a physical therapist and an athletic trainer, and a strength coach, and somewhat of the shaman of the team. So it's been a fascinating journey. I mean, coming from a kid from Manila who always dreamed of being in basketball and knew that I wasn't maybe tall enough, strong enough, or had the competition around me enough to be able to hone those skills to be able to make it to pro sports, and particularly NBA, which every Filipino kid does. And I already had a bit of advantage because I was taller than most Filipino kids, but our love of basketball is so strong that it was definitely something that's ingrained in us to be able to get there somewhere and somehow. But at an early age, I was pretty aware of my skills and I'm pretty aware of what my capabilities were, thanks to having mindfulness practices and meditation and personal growth book at such an early age. Starting at 7, I started meditating, and at 12, I started teaching meditation. So that came such an early age. So awareness was a thing for me, and so to be able to say, okay, well, if I'm not athletic enough to like make it in the highest level that I could, what can I do, and what superpowers do I have to then be able to make it using the same, to that same direction. And for me, I was always a caregiver. I take care of people. And I think my greatest gift is to not only take care of people, but also mentor and teach them and be a teacher in a way, and to use, my power of empathy, compassion, and really, yeah, I think the caring nature that especially Filipinos have. And this is something that I harnessed completely. And I said, okay, if I can't be the star of the show that is the NBA, then maybe I can be the superstar behind that person.
Yeah.
And that's where that journey took me.
That is amazing. I mean, really being able to harness your skills and still get to a destination. And I would venture to say, knowing what you were able to do with the players, that you are their secret weapon. And one of the things you bring to the Knicks and you bring to the players are these mindfulness practices. Now, a few questions here. First, how was it received when you first brought in mindfulness to them? And then next, what have you been able to see in terms of performance once they're able to tap into these practices?
Well, as with anything that's different, it's taken time. It itself is a journey for me to know what I can do and how I can do it and preach and teach it at a certain periods of time. So I've I've gone through this experience before. I was in baseball for 8 years, and for the first 5 years, as an innovative, you know, manual and manipulative physiotherapist, for me, I couldn't just throw in the kitchen sink on my first year there. I had to. I was actually advised to drop one technique or new thought or new technology only one time, once a year, so that then it doesn't overpower, particularly with baseball, such a traditional sport. But after that fifth year, the amount of respect I got from my fellow colleagues was pretty applaudable, because they really felt that there was somebody at least in their corner pushing the envelope and understanding how we can bring more of a global environment into a traditional sport like basketball, like baseball. Basketball was different because basketball, I thought you could break the barrier much quicker, because mindfulness and meditation practices have been in the world of basketball since Phil Jackson introduced it in the early 90s with Michael, and then subsequently through Kobe, him alongside George Mumford were something that they did for these guys. But I think this generation has changed from that generation to the point that now, what is the easiest access for you as a practitioner to be able to then propagate this? Number one, they need to trust you more than anything else. And so it first had to trust me as a clinician, who I was as a global minded expert in manual therapy skills and alternative type stuff. And that's acceptable in the physical therapy realm. And to be able to present that and present who I am. Second, I had to like be what I wanted to present myself as. And so, you enter my space in our office, you could tell that I'm that guy, since I have a low-lying couch, I have a yoga mat, I have my meditation pillows, I have a gratitude wall, and then I also have my black belt, just so that if everyone wanted to mess with me, I can show that I can show them some stuff. And actually, it's kind of worked, because then the players make you understand who you are, that you do have this, you are very quiet and very peaceful, and you bring a sense of stability in the space, but also, don't poke the bear, because the
Right.
bear can fight back if he wants to. And then third, it takes time. It really, in the first 5 years, it was a bit of a challenge. Even though Phil, who was one of my mentors, was right next to me as we alongside this, it wasn't easily accepted by players. But the one thing I've learned, and as all teachers, and you would know, is that when we want to introduce something that's definitely something that represents us, all we can really do is plant the seed. We can't force the seed to grow. All we can do is plant it, let it grow on its own. And then when the time comes, that seed will ask for more sunshine, will ask for more water. And that is the help that then they ask of us. And so it's taken quite a bit of time, but now in my ninth season in the NBA, players now like pull me aside and say, hey, can we do that stuff that we used to do? Even though I introduced it earlier on, I introduced a lot of the mindful practices really probably in my second and third year, but not until really, weirdly enough, my ninth year, where they really pull me aside and say, hey, I started doing that last summer or 2 summers ago. Can we do that stuff more? And I'm like, okay, cool. Absolutely. First of all, absolutely. Second, I commend you on the journey that you're in. But third, you're ready. And this is the time we do it. And so I think patience plays a role in trying to really show who you are. And then at the same time, there's an understanding that's necessary from any athlete or anyone as a patient, as a client to somebody, before you work with somebody who is whether an expert or whether it's somebody that's well known for what they do. You still have to know who they are. And if it has to do with going into really the mental, emotional, and spiritual side of things, that even further on, it takes sometimes generations for people to then to say, I'm willing to hear what you're about to say.
So this brings up a very important question, which was, when are they asking for more water and sunshine? Are they coming to you because they are in a slump and they need to get out of it? Are they coming to you because they're like, oh, you worked on so and so, and I see them knocking down their free throws so much better? And they're coming to you like, oh, I want some performance. What has been some of the whys that people are starting to embrace this?
A few things. Number one, a start of a new season. Maybe they have some performance metrics that they feel like they want to do better, and this is a secret weapon they could use. Number two, slumps, challenges, injuries, all of those will basically let people and athletes in general, especially since they play at a high level, to be able to say, hey, maybe I should give that a try.
Yeah.
Or maybe I should test that out and see if it works. And then once again, the lesson has to be like, cool, we'll go through it, but remember, you still have to get the work done. You still have to do what you need to do, but put in the work for this stuff, so to speak, adding a mindfulness practice to your days, and make sure that you just don't make it a flash in the pants. And so I think challenges, as we all know, make us reevaluate our lives, but also new beginnings makes us reevaluate our lives. And it's not any different for athletes as their season starts or they're going through stuff.
Yeah, you've told me some pretty amazing things. I forgot the one phrase that you were working with the player when we had dinner. You were mentioning you got together, and there was this one kind of gimme phrase that you gave him. Do you recall what I'm talking about? Is
Uh, um, is it? I mean, my phrase that I think every athlete that has gone through my hands, so to speak, they will never forget. And I see this because I get this every time we travel to a different city,
Yeah.
and a player will come up to me and say this. They'll say the phrase "Welcome to the now,"
Yes.
and they'll say that because they'll see me, and even they're in a different team. They'll come next to me. They'll come close right by me. They will bow. They'll reach your hand. They'll shake my hand and be like, welcome to the now. That's it's almost a joke, but also at the same time that means that whatever we did with them stuck, and that was the anchor phrase that makes you begin the mindfulness practice that I teach. I say welcome to the now. Remember, everything prior to this moment is now only in the mind. And and for that, I mean, it gives me goosebumps to think about all the players that have gone through and listened to my mini TED talks when we did things on a daily basis, and now on their own, they have to remember, so they see me and then they get reminded, oh, I need to do that breath work thing, I need to do that kind of intention setting thing, or I need to do that meditation thing.
Yeah, I love that. Welcome to the now. And what it really teaches us, I have my version of what is the now, what is not the now. The not the now is when you're in your head in the past, worrying about the future, and you're anything right here. Does it mean the same to you?
Yeah,
You share with that.
it is. It's like be present, or just notice. I think more than anything else, I think I live and work in the world of madness,
Yeah.
and to be able to find a peace and space of time for stillness allows even myself to remember where I am and to remain grounded. And I think, especially there's nothing like being at the garden and the madness that occurs over there and the distractions you have from the people that are sitting in the seats right in front of you, to obviously everyone up on the 200s that are screaming, to even the people that are right next to you who just want an attention of the players that you're working with. But I ask them, as I go through the practice with them, is to find that sliver of space and time, like stillness of time, to then just focus on this one thing and then capture that moment and then bring it to that whenever things get jerry, so to speak, while you're playing, just remember this moment, hold this, and welcome to this now.
Ooh, so good. So good. It brought me goosebumps as you were talking about it. And I just wanted to bring a little bit of medical science behind all of this and why it's so important because people who listen to my podcast know about something called the default mode network. The default mode
Mm,
network is basically an autopilot survival mode of the brain that we develop when we're kids, all the way up until the age of 10. We're downloading, information from our social media, from our parents, from teachers, all these things. And because of the survival mode, it's constantly looking for what's wrong. And part of it is negativity and fear lives there, limiting beliefs, disempowering stories. And this default mode network is this autopilot. And so when you're not paying attention, when you're in this state where this thing is just lurking, you're constantly just reacting to what's happening outside. But when you welcome yourself to the now and pay attention, you can step out of this part of you that's just like on autopilot and
mhm.
really be the driver of what's happening around you, whether it be in a relationship, whether it be in your business, or whether you're in a high stakes basketball game.
This episode of the Thrive State podcast is brought to you by the Thrive State Accelerator. The Thrive State Accelerator is actually a home course that I developed using the exact same techniques I work with my celebrity clients, CEOs, and executives on how to get them to the Thrive State. The Thrive State Accelerator teaches you how to master your 7 bioenergetic elements. That's sleep, nutrition, movement, stress and emotional mastery, relationships, our thoughts and mindset, as well as purpose. In this Thrive State Accelerator, you're also going to get a bonus module on optimization. That's how I talk about supplementation, peptides, all the optimization techniques I use with my clients to get them to the Thrive State. Now, for some of you who are just joining us for the first time, you guys might be wondering, what is the Thrive State? Well, the Thrive State is actually the energy, the epigenetic environment we give to ourselves, telling our DNA how to act and how to respond. And if we want optimal health, longevity, and peak performance, if we can master these 7 bioenergetic elements, our ability to have those 3 things that we just said, optimal health, longevity, and peak performance, is at its greatest. And it also prevents you from getting chronic symptoms like brain fog, being overweight, feeling sluggish, acne, pain, all these chronic symptoms, as well as preventing you from getting chronic disease. So getting to that Thrive State is really getting to that state to master being that very best version of yourself so you could show up for you, for your family, for your business, everything that's important to you. So go ahead, check it out right now at kienvu.com/accelerator and use coupon code podcast25 for 25% off. Now back to the podcast.
It's interesting to really put it that way, because I think it's not just, let's say, basketball. I think it applies to everybody. Even, let's say, you're everyone that considers themselves a high performer, whether you're an engineer working at Google that has a deadline that needs to, and you're working on those code like crazy, like late nights and everything, Or if you are a singer and you're about to go on stage and suddenly you have to level up because now you got invited to Austin City Limits or Coachella and you've never done anything like that. And so how do you then find yourself get pushed to that next level and remember that it's the same, the only difference is the size. And so I think the beautiful thing about stepping back, finding that space of groundedness, is allowing you to remember where you are and who you are, despite whatever is around you. And what are the anchors and what are the mantras for yourself at every moment in time that allows you to be back there, so to speak. And for me, I try to hack my way into it so much with different kind of additional variables for the guys I work with, or even for myself. And it's not just the words that I say, but the smells that I give each player to smell that reminds them of something that grounds them back, but also giving them a mantra to hold on to using NLP. So I think it's been an exciting journey for not just the athletes, but for myself, but also people that I work with different realms, whether they're dancers, they're singers, they're performers, they're actors, or they're CEOs, or people that are, like I said, are engineers, programmers who just they need to keep pushing that envelope.
Yeah. So, quick question for you is, what has been some of your personal mantras, and what have been some pretty cool mantras that stuck with other people that other people found very empowering?
Oh, simply things like "Be Like Water" by Bruce Lee. I mean, that's one of my favorites because I think as life gets crazy, it's about trying to find flow and being like water whenever you need it. And so that's probably one of my ultimate favorites, that I walk around the earth saying like "Be like water," even in the middle of traffic and a sea of humanity. And we everyone they see me around, especially when we're in the locker rooms, and I try to do like the Euro step, and I try to go like this, but also like water, because you kind of flow like this. And I was big in martial arts. I started with Taekwondo when I was younger, moved to Arnis, which is a Filipino stick fighting, and Krav Maga afterwards. But stick fighting was interesting for me because even though you had two sticks, it was your hands, and your hands move like this. It was like you're trying to make sure you're creating space and flowing, almost like Tai Chi. And so they see me around when there's like I'm walking in the corridors or the hallways, and somebody just pops out of nowhere, then I have to like flow and go to the other side. But also that's a bit of a bebop, the b-boy in me, ex-dancer, so to speak, that kind of does that as well. So I'm
If
just
you're
comfortable
ever
being
in
me
a
nowadays,
desert
so it
in
doesn't
Burning
matter.
Man, if you're ever in Burning Man, in the middle of the desert, but you see lake, or you see what seems to be like water, it is this friend, this guy, Big E, dancing out there because he's being like water. Another quick science point that I wanted to drop here in terms of being in the now. That default mode network, that autopilot thing, actually, it's always looking for what's wrong. And so people who are stuck in this autopilot mode actually turns on the stress state. It increases cortisol in our body, and it also increases inflammation, and it will lower our immune system. And so certainly if you're a high performance athlete, you're trying to heal from something, the more stressed you are, you're going to really retard and slow down your healing. And certainly we know that people who can turn off that default mode network, slow things down, be in the now, are able to tap into that flow state a little bit better. This state of ultimate performance where time turns into nothing and you're just doing your thing in flow. It's when you're able to turn off the default mode network, which I call, it's almost kind of like living life with the brakes on, if you're basically at autopilot mode.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. This is one of the things that if you watch The Last Dance with Michael Jordan, one of the comments that was made by a writer there is that the difference between Michael and everyone else on the court during that period of time that MJ was just dominating was that he remained present at every single time, so that he knew if his opponent was about to do something like to try to get the ball from him or try to block him, that he just he trusted his gut, but also was in the moment, that he didn't try to anticipate things too much, but
Yeah.
rather just let things happen and then reacted to it as it occurred. And that was the difference. That's why he was so great, when he, at that period of time where he was really using that to his powers.
Yeah. Now, shifting a little bit over a conversation over to something you are known for all over the world, which is gratitude. You are the godfather of gratitude.
Yes.
There you go. But why gratitude? What's this gratitude thing about?
You know what's funny is that I grew up with already with a sense of gratitude. You grow you when you know are raised in the Philippines, you wake up every morning and you already notice the difference between those that have and those that have nots.
Mm.
And you know, I grew up very lucky enough to be able to have not necessarily everything, but just have enough. But there were so many in the Philippines, and the percentage is pretty massive. What 90% of the Philippines is was in poverty, and it still is. And to be able to just say, like, you walk out and say, okay, how can I then not only serve through my own ways those that are outside of my gates, so to speak, or homes, but what is it I have to do every single day just to remind myself how lucky I am? And that's kind of where this gratitude came from. Is it was just something that I was reminded by my parents, but also because I was lucky enough to begin understanding, consciousness and awareness at a young age. I knew that I needed to have empathy, and that empathy was powered by the sense of gratitude. And so for me, this really was something I was built with. I have it in me since I was born. Yet it wasn't until really about 2015, 2014 to 16, I was with somebody who kind of reminded me all the time and held me accountable for my gratefulness. And initially I was like, why are you asking me what I'm grateful for and why every day? I already am. I mean, come on. I grew up in a situation where I know I'm lucky, and I'm making sure I try to give it back as much as I can when I can, not only by being the person that other people can see, but also do it in my everyday life. And and then she goes, well, because you need to be held accountable. You can't just say it to say it. It's not something in passing. You need to be held accountable for what it is you're grateful for. I'm like, okay. So uh, that relationship ended, and it ended amicably. But what she left with me was that asking of why I was grateful. And so that then turned into what now is the daily gratitude, which started really about in March of 2016, where I started posting because she wasn't there to remind me anymore. It was just me asking myself, I'm grateful for this because.
Yeah.
And then I just started posting every single day since 2016. And then I got people replying back and saying, I wait for this daily gratitude practice you have, because it just reminds me too to be held accountable for the gratitude I have. And so as I continued to really practice that, I started really understanding why gratitude works and how it affects me. And people ask me, where do you get the energy to just be filled with energy and laughter and love and life? It's the sense of gratitude that I have. And it was interesting because then I started really studying going into the science of gratitude and positive psychology. And the pandemic was spent really diving into it as I went through the program at the University of Pennsylvania with their positive psychology program. And funny enough, the first paper we had to read for the program was the happiest people in the world explained. It was basically a study using the Gallup polls and looking at why the 5% of the people in the world are the happiest in the world. And as I read that, I just started checking every box. It's like, oh yeah, whether it's like it has freedom to be able to learn something new every day, and it'll be like, oh, check. It has, gets out and blah blah blah, and I said check. And I said more and more. I was like, wow, not only am I I'm only checking all the boxes for the top 5%. I think I'm in the top 1%. This is crazy. And what powers me? And I asked that question again. What powers me is the sense of gratitude that I have. And so as I began studying it, I started really starting to doing the research and what are the techniques that really allowed anyone with a practice to then have their well-being scores elevated. And I started talking about it. I started teaching it to people. And it was really surprising with the simple element and reminder of that accountability of what you're grateful for. It has changed people's outlook and even their way of being on such a regular basis that I said, I got something here. I need to just like be an evangelist for this. And ironically, not only like right after that program, I said, how can I be even more evangelist and have science really back up what I say? Is that then I began, one of the first, PhDs in gratitude. And I said, I'm going to do a PhD and focus mainly on how gratitude impacts, athletes and how they perform. And so it's one of those things that it really became something for me, which was, something that inherently was in me, that I was born with, questioned by somebody that, that really influenced me and gave me it as a gift, and then started digging into the science behind it. And so this has been really interesting enough. Yeah, like really a 7-year journey into the understanding of why gratitude works for us and with us.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. I do a lot of research on that as well. And, for people in the longevity space, gratitude, those people that feel gratitude, they've actually done studies where they take people's blood, and those people that consistently feel high levels of gratitude have lower markers of lower inflammatory markers, such as IL-6, IL-12, TNF alpha. So gratitude actually lowers inflammation in your body. And here's the thing, when I think about gratitude is really a state. It's a feeling that you feel. And that means, and this is what I teach people also, is your mental, emotional, physical, social, and spiritual states are all energetically connected. And so when you're feeling that state of gratitude, check out where your thoughts are. They're elevated too. So all this is energetically connected. And so when you can practice gratitude and start feeling it, you're actually turning off this survival mode of that brain, that default mode network. So that's why it's so important for performance as well, because it quiets down, the part of us that holds us back.
Yeah, the neuroscience says that when we're in that state of gratitude, the only thing that's similar to it is like being ultimately in that mindful or meditative state, is that there's no other negative polarity that can go in there when we're in this state of gratitude. And so that's really fascinating for me. That really got me. And I said, okay, well, if there's no other state, I mean, you can be happy, but still be kind of sad. You could be joyful, but have a bit of anger. Yeah, you're angry, but you're joyful. But when you're in the state of gratitude, you can't be grateful and ungrateful simultaneously. You just can't. Like it cannot actually physically happen. And so how can I tap into that and then make that an actual like hack as a performance enhancement hack? And it's been funny. It's been working. And even though I haven't really published 10 million articles about it, I see it on a daily basis, and I'm just blessed to be able to be a witness to that.
Oh, cool. What are one or two of your favorite, kind of gratitude practices? Is it journaling? Is it mantraing? Is it visualizing?
One of the first things I teach people who haven't had a practice before, and they feel like journaling is going to take some stuff, or the powerful tool of the gratitude letter is the most powerful tool in the positive psychology space as it relates to well-being. But for me, when I teach people, I said the simplest thing to do is, before I even really wake up, I put my right hand on my heart, I put my left hand over my right hand, and really, as I'm still asleep, the only thing that's really alive is my toes wiggling. I take a nice deep breath, take a deep breath in, I breathe out, and then in that moment, I just say, I'm so grateful that I have one more day to be alive and to create impact in this world. And it just helps me just like be grounded, be here, and I'm breathing. I'm just grateful that I'm breathing right now. And then I wake up, and then I go through, my 3 or 4 more, gratitude hacks I start my day with. But yeah, simply doing that. And ironically, I've taught this to a number of people, particularly like in big Zoom classes. And for them, that was such a life changer for them. Was like, oh yeah, we started doing this like thing, which before we woke up, we just took a breath and we just gave thanks for the breath. And it's really changed like how I feel every day, because you take that moment just to be alive and remind yourself that, guess what? You are breathing.
Amazing. And I just want to let people know, I mean, the gratitude practice is not like it doesn't have to be like a 15, 20-minute, 3-minute thing. You know, you just did one now. And one of the things I was just thinking of as I'm talking to you is like, wow, can I feel it right now with my brothers, sharing his knowledge, his wisdom, and his heart with me right in this moment. Can I just feel that right now? And man, I feel it. So it doesn't take a lot of time, ladies and gentlemen. But look into his work for a lot more information. Let's dive in quickly with the gratitude gang, and then you also have the Grasshopper Project. Can you talk briefly about each of those?
Yeah, briefly about the two things that I value the most is mentorship and of course gratitude or positivity. And so staying with gratitude, and Gratitude Gang was initially a clubhouse club during the pandemic, that we basically were a community where we just shared what we're grateful for and why every single day. And I did that straight 1 year for a year straight. I kind of got burned out afterwards because life kind of started happening.
Right.
But we were able to get to a point that we reached about 50,000, almost 50,000 people as part of the community that just came in, and maybe hundreds at a time that would come in and just share what they're grateful for and why. But then that moved into the Web3 space, because a really big hurricane hit the Philippines in December of 2021. And I said, how can I help the Philippines without having to just make a fundraiser to have rice and sardines served to the people that were affected, especially in the little islands that are very close to me, called Siargao Island. And I said, how can I use the power of technology in Web3 to create awareness of this space, to be able to help rebuild schools in the Philippines, but also help provide mental health services for the kids that were affected by the PTSD of the roofs just like exploding, through because of typhoon. And so we used the power of technology to create Gratitude Gang, the NFT project, and helped also local artists in the Philippines to be able to show their art and use that into a digital space to then raise funds to be able to rebuild these schools and provide mental health services for the kids. But as we all know, the crypto winter arrived, and so crypto and NFTs were kind of getting pushed off to the side. And so I pivoted this, and now Gratitude Gang is turning into a 501c3 true nonprofit, which is in the process right now with the continuing mission to help rebuild schools in the Philippines for any calamities that occur in the future, but also provide the mental health services to make sure that the rebuilding isn't just physical, but it's also mental, emotional, and spiritual as well. And because we all believe that every child needs to thrive in life. But that, and then one other thing, mentorship is very, very, very important to me. Grasshopper Project started as an initiative in 2013, and it became an official 501c3 in 2018, which helps mentor the next generation of thought leaders and change makers in the world of health, wellness, and performance space that are otherwise left without any true mentorship. I think when you're going to any kind of health space, or even if you want to be a nutritionist, or whatever, you're kind of off the fringe, and if you want to be a massage therapist, you don't really get true mentorship. You learn a little bit of something, you watch things on YouTube, and you go to school, but not everyone has a chance to get a mentor. And so what I do is I've collected a number of people, from physicians to physical therapists, to athletic trainers, to whether work in sports or they work in big companies that created, they work for Google, and then they say, okay, we have these mentors, or gurus, we call them, and then we have the grasshoppers, who are the students or those in transition who just want to know how to get to the next step, in order then to be able to represent their culture, but also the profession that they chose, and to be able to be effective in making a change. And so the Grasshopper Project started because of that, and is still going since 2018.
Oh, amazing. Really, acknowledge you for doing the deep work, because I know, within all of this, there's probably a lot of different struggles that allowed you to go deeper within yourself, and now sharing that, with people out there. I just really want to acknowledge you for bringing such good work to the people that you serve, not only in the New York Knicks, but globally as well. Before I ask my very last question, where do people find out more about you, the Gratitude Gang, the Grasshopper Project, all this stuff? How do people find out more about Big E?
I know. What's funny, my something happened recently where my website actually like crashed down for some strange reason, and we're still trying to figure out the back end of what really happened. But clearly, it's a situation that's affecting really where everyone can see me in one space. So the quickest way to really find the daily gratitude and everything that's going on is my Instagram, which is Erwin B Valencia, which is the easiest one to find with all the daily gratitude practices that I do. But number two, you can find Grasshopper Project on grasshopperproject.org, and Gratitude Gang. The current NFT is gratitudegang.io. We're kind of creating a new website just in general for the 501c3 that then now has NFT attached to it, but it's going to be more about the nonprofit rather than NFT. I think what happened before is we focused so much on the Web3 and NFT space that had the community rather than the community first before the NFT. And so now we're switching that so it's more impactful and has more purpose. So you can find me in those three main outlets, or wherever Kien is at. And I'll be there.
That's true. We're going to be hanging out here as well. All right, my very last question to you, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but what has been your best medicine?
Oh, my best medicine, of course, is the word gratitude. I know I kind of folded it there because I think throughout the challenges that I have in my life, the reminder that I need to be grateful for where I am and how and the journey that I've been through has then been the best medicine, even at the period of time that things were turning to get really bad with, when I first launched Gratitude Gang and I promised a lot of schools that I would help them rebuild after the typhoon. And I had to stop. And somebody had to remind me, actually, which is really weird. It's like, hey, it's okay. Let us take over for a second. You need to find your gratitude practice back, and you need to remind yourself how you've become who you become through the sense of gratitude and through gratefulness. And you need to just tap back onto that and let that noise around you slowly start getting quiet, and be back to who you are, because people depend on you, depend on this uber grateful dude to be out there and spreading the love and not be, in a challenge, even though it is okay to go through the challenge, but they look for you for inspiration. So continue to be that person that inspires others.
Oh, thank you for being that change that you want to see in the world, brother. Hey, thank you for being on the Thrive State podcast, Big E.
Thank you very much, brother. Much, much love.
I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Thrive State podcast. And if this podcast is bringing a lot of value to you, if you find that your life is just improving with this podcast, that your life is getting to the next level, please consider supporting it. And here's a few ways you can do so. You can do so by liking this video and commenting on this video, and also sharing this video with your friends and family. Another thing you can do is go to ratethispodcast.com/ThriveState. Go ahead and leave us a 5-star review there. It will really, really help this show grow. And this will give me more time so that I could actually give more content to you, just like you got in this episode. And if you haven't already picked up a copy of my book, Thrive State, Your Blueprint for Optimal Health, Longevity, and Peak Performance, you can pick it up now. It became a #1 new release in longevity. Go to thrivestatebook.com. And if you enjoy the book, please consider leaving us a review as well. And the last thing you can do, if you're liking everything here and you want to work more closely with me as well as my team to get you into the Thrive State, go to kienvu.com/accelerator and consider joining the home course, the Thrive State Accelerator. It's really the course that I use. It's the concepts that I use personally when I work with CEOs, celebrities, and my high-profile clients to get them to the Thrive State. Again, the Thrive State Accelerator at kienvu.com/accelerator. And because you're a listener of this podcast, I want you to save 25% by using the coupon code podcast25. I hope we continue to give value to you. And remember always, you are your best medicine.